I'll open up your presentation.
So I'm familiar with how to do all this stuff. There you go, you're live. Thank you, Andy Shipsides, everybody. Let's give Andy a hand because he's awesome. Thanks. Thank you for bringing me out here. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. He's doing good stuff with getting all these great people to come and speak. It's cool. We support him in it. Thanks to Abel, obviously, for hosting me. Really happy to be here. I'm going to put my beer down for just a second. This is always a work in progress, so forgive me if I have to refer back to my notes. Just to this thing. Can everybody hear me? Is it okay? All right, cool. Camera people. Who is a camera person in the audience tonight? Okay, good. Civilians, some civilians too. Okay, cool, good. Thanks for coming out to Burbank. I appreciate it. This is something that boarding has said to me a number of times over the years, and it's a deceivingly simple thing to say. It's kind of a Zen koan a little bit, but it's something I think about a lot. It's something that we're thinking about on the new series, Parts Unknown, if you guys have checked that out. It's different. I think we're getting better all the time. But to also think about this on a show where I shoot a lot of people sitting at a table talking to each other, and a lot of B-roll. So to kind of access these concepts for my show, I think is kind of strange. I realize that, but it is something I think about a lot. And it's something I want to share with you guys what I'm thinking about as I enter this new season, as we carry this process on from, I don't know, well over 100 shows by now. So let's get weird. So I believe in no right answers. Things are always changing. Everybody's scenario is different. Everybody's show is different. Everybody's day is different. So there's a lot of cameras out there. I have my reasons why I choose this one, but there's definitely other form factors. There's a lot to think about in camera form, and I like to think about those things, and I like to think about why we make those choices. But you know, one's going to be right for one thing, and one's going to be right for another thing. That's cool. I support that. So, you know, hard and fast rules in this business, as you guys know, is few, because things just change. This is a kind of a platform, the F5, 55, pretty similar cameras. We're working on the F5 now. But I do see it as a platform, especially now because the way that it's getting built around, you know. So much is changing about what this kind of thing can do, that it is becoming more of like a platform that you apply a concept to and you kind of build it out for your situation. I'll talk a little bit about S-Log, how I'm using it in the field, and I never know what kind of questions we're going to get, so feel free at the end, we'll go wherever you want. I'll talk a little bit about how I'm using S-Log, because I know people want to know about that, and a little bit about, Andy and I were talking, I'm really interested in kind of the magic of the business that we're doing these days. There's so much tech talk, and I'm a gear nerd, like probably a lot of you guys are, but you know, there's a magic in it, and that's why everybody got into it. And I like to think about that and talk about that, because maybe we don't talk about that enough, you know? So I've written about this a little bit, but Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, you guys know her or not, but she has this interesting discussion with a cameraman collaborator, Gregory Pattison, I think is his name, about how to record life. You know, they're out there, they're anthropologists out there shooting situations, trials. And they had this conversation about, do you just put the tripod on the sticks to record the thing? Or do you try to, and he's saying, no, I want to take the tripod like art, you know? And that's going to always be there, that question of, if we're out to record a thing, what's the purpose? Is it more useful if we go towards the art side and try to make it, you know, a piece of art, or is it more truthful if we just, this is what it is, there you go, you know? Again, probably no right answer on that, but it's something I always think about, balancing those two worlds. And that balance, it just comes back, it always happens. It's something I think about all the time when I'm shooting. Am I recording, to what extent am I recording this event, and to what extent am I trying to give you an impression of an event, which maybe will be closer to the truth. This is something I'm really interested in, is you got to start with a theory. You got to start with an idea before you walk into a project, right? I mean, it might actually, I take it back, it might be totally interesting if you walk into something and have, how's it going? If you have no idea what you're doing, right? But generally, we have a theory. What's this movie or show or whatever you're shooting, what is it, what do I think I want it to be like? What is the director telling me their vision is? What's the, you know, what's the script or whatever? You go in with an idea, and based on that idea, you need to start making technical and material choices. What camera are you going to shoot on? What lenses are you going to put on that camera? What are you going to record to? It all gets confusing really fast. But what I'm interested in is the way that those choices are then going to shape the operator, especially in documentary, particularly in documentary, is the way that those things are then going to shape my behavior or your behavior and the subject's behavior. That's something we don't always think about, is that the way that these material choices and lensing choices are now shaping my distance to things, shaping your distance to things, how those things may be changing based on those proximities, and how, you know, those choices start to wrap up in themselves, and now we're changing things based on those material decisions. No right or wrong, but it's interesting to think about how these things will start to shape the way we interact with the world and how that world interacts back with us. It's good. It's weird, man. You know, just thinking about story theory, and that one big thing to think about in making these choices is pace of the edit, pace of, you know, you're always thinking to the edit, you're always thinking of the pace of that which you're acquiring. How fast do I need to acquire it? How long is the editor going to leave those shots up? What is the director asking for in terms of the rhythm of this thing? So rhythm is a big part of what's going to make all these changes happen. Boundaries. We always have this. You know, for me, there's these moments and information happening in the world, and my job and your job is to get those to the audience, right? And the more direct, in the ideal world, the more direct and intense those moments are, or the more clear, right? The more clear that information is, and that direct pipeline to the audience, kind of the better. So in getting these moments in the world and information to the audience, we've got to go through all this stuff. Mind, body, you know, obviously I have kind of a, I'm going to put kind of a documentary slant on this, although you can apply this to everything, features and commercials, whatever. Those moments coming through the mind and the body and through the camera and through that camera form, through the lens, through those lens choices, and all the way out to the audience, and thinking about that as you're in that moment and thinking about the audience, you know? It's so much information at the same time. But boundaries, especially in our show, you know, for me, you got to have it's the will to go get the moment, you know? The desire to go get it. You know, it sort of starts there. Without the will, you can't have the vision. But you also have to have the vision, which goes back to story theory, about how do you want to see this thing? How do you want the audience to see this thing? How do you want to experience that? Time, budget, energy, you can't get around those boundaries, you know? They're always there. For us, jet lag, climate, you know, no sleep, could be language barrier. You know, you have all these, we have all these crazy boundaries to get through all the time, but it's the sort of the will and the vision that's going to get you there. And I really think to think about how to the mind, that's what you have to get through. That's the hardest, that's the biggest boundary there is having that vision of how to shoot the thing, and it's hard, to wrap your head around. If you really want to think about how to shoot something differently, that's a tall order, because you got to. It's deceivingly, but all of that can be surmounted, obviously, and how the lens and the frame is also a boundary. I'll get to that next, but you can even think of that as a boundary to be overcome, Cinematic risk. This is, I always feel weird talking about this because it is like, it's a show about often two people sitting at a table, and I'm like, why am I even talking about this? But we have these conversations, directors and the DPs on the show, and the producers this is the stuff we talk about now, What do I mean by cinematic risk? What is risk? Well, all of what we're doing revolves really around these critical story points, whether it's a how-to show or whether it's Terrence Malick being really ethereal. There's some critical story points there, and our job, more or less, is to go out and get those. Hence, built around those critical story points, we've built a whole system around classical coverage and making sure how clear that information is being translated. As those moments happen, how clearly are we getting those moments and giving them to the audience? And that's what's safe. That's safe. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what safe is. It means we get it. Oh, I got it. This is what the character's saying. Okay, good. No questions about it. The character's having a moment. Great. 100% translate. We get it. But as you move away from taking things so literally, that you're moving into this unsafe world. And what I mean by that is that two things. One thing, from an operational standpoint, is are you missing the moment? Which is what, for us, we don't get second moments. Like especially on my show, there's no second takes. There's no second chance. If you miss it, it's gone, and it's not good. You don't want to do that. You get in trouble for that. But it's like that for everything else in a way, I mean, things only happen once, so we all can kind of be in that mindset whether we get a second chance or not, because it's kind of true. You don't actually get a second chance at that thing. So when we think about moving away from safe coverage, there's a reason for it, and the reason and what I mean by there for characters talking, you're there. What's happening? You're right there. Well, what if there's this thing called story truth? Okay, Tim O'Brien is an author who I love him. I read him a long time ago, and he has this one piece in one of his books about story truth, and he says that story truth maybe isn't necessarily the same as true truth, as historical truth. Meaning, and it kind of goes back to what Margaret Mead's conversation was, is like, just because it isn't historically true doesn't mean it's not really true. I know that's weird, especially in a photographic medium, but as you step away from things that are literal, you're hopefully doing it to get to that, which is story truth, which is maybe this truth, maybe it's this way of seeing things. It wasn't literally happening, wasn't literally there, but it's actually more true. It's impressionism, where that emotion is being translated to you, and you find that and if you can connect with that moment emotionally, well, isn't that more true than maybe if I wasn't on the thirds when I framed it and didn't totally grab it? So that's something that I'm thinking about a lot, and something we're talking about a lot is the unknown and obscurity, and not just doing that's not something do as an effect, you know? It's getting off the well-beaten path for a reason, and that reason might be to find something that's even more true than you thought it was, if that makes any sense at all. It doesn't to me sometimes, but that's why I have to have these graphics, so get reminded of it. Yeah, the risk is in losing the audience, right? That's what you're really risking when you say risk. Oh, it's a risky shot. I want to do a really risky look here. Well, what you mean when you say risky is you might lose the audience, which is, yeah, you don't want to do that. That's the last thing you want to do. So it's all part of that. See, it's so untechnical. Told you it wasn't going to be technical. Handheld work and documentary work and good camera work, I think, is all based on this. It's all based on that moment, that moment of, and this goes right back to like the early days of street photography, is trying to find a moment. And that moment can be between actors, it can be between a stranger you encounter in the street, it can be between a strange group of birds sitting on a tree and you. I think those are all moments, but I think everybody knows what we mean when we mean moments, right? And getting those moments. What I think is really interesting about camera work is balancing these two sides of the brain and existence, where it's really hard to be really good at handheld work. It takes years because you have so much loaded up in the rational part of your brain, especially in terms of rules like framing, rules like how is this going to be edited, you know, what's the storyline here, where's this person going, literally what direction are they going, how many people are behind me as I walk through this market, where's my exposure, what are the sound levels at if you have to do sound like me, which I hate. And the only way to do that is, like any musician or sports, you know, any athlete, is you get conditioned. You have to be conditioned if you're going to be good, because life is moving so fast that you need to react to it in real time. And making those real-time choices takes a long time to be good at that, because life is moving very quickly in front of you, especially for us on our show. I mean, it's like it's live, and once it stops, there's no stopping it. Once it starts, there's no stopping it. So all of that technical knowledge, all of the technical engineering knowledge of how to make that thing work, and all the rationality behind the coverage we were talking about, classical coverage, because there is a rationality to it. It's very rational. The reason we cut and the reason we frame the way we do, there's reasons for it, good reasons. But balancing that with, I'm kind of cutting my intuition. And getting back to those, being able to let yourself go again and get back into the subconscious, weirder stuff, where you let the training go again, which is hard, really hard, can be very hard. Maybe it's not hard for everybody. Sometimes it's hard for me. Where you let the training go again and you get to that intuitive part of yourself where you can get to that moment. I think this is what Terrence Malick is all about in Lubeski. I really think that's the language that he's speaking, is I'm doing away with some of these rules to get closer to maybe what's really happening. People, you know, there's talk about, you know, the old street photographers and like rangefinders and how that was kind of the theory of, it's not all about SLR world. It's not all about perfect framing, which I love perfect framing and I'm very good at it. But maybe, you know, do you guys shoot with, everybody, Leica, rangefinders? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That the framing is not as precise in a way. Can it be? Sure. But the camera is sort of designed so that it's not. And when you engage the world without precise framing, what's happening? You're engaging moments more. You're approaching situations more. Less about this and more about this. And I think there's something really interesting about that. So knowing a moment, and not even knowing it, but just feeling it, that's part of the magic that I'm talking about. That that's, I think, why we all got involved in it. And we got to remember that when we get buried in all the technical stuff, is like, bring it back to this stuff, because that's what's really interesting and weird and mysterious. Who knows what? That's weird. Capturing moments on a camera, it's weird. Let's be frank about it. We do it all the time, but it's mysterious, man. There's this this Zen poem, I guess, or a story about this. I think it's a master and a student. The master's teaching with a bow and arrow, and he's lined up. Master's lined up, and I think it's some bird flying by, and the student's like, "This is going to be amazing. Watch this." And bird way out there, and the master's just like, "Let's go." Completely misses the bird, and the student's like, "I think you missed the bird there." And the master's like, "Oh no, my aim was perfect." And it's like, that's it, man. It's like, it's all about, and for me, who knows what that means? Everybody, it's an own interpretation. But for me, that's like, and this is kind of selfish for camera people, but it's about that moment of waiting. Waiting for the moment. Waiting, engaging. I shouldn't be saying this, and it's kind of selfish, but who cares what happens after that? That's not true, because you have to care. But you know what? That moment is what we're in it for. And that's what makes it exciting, is that engaging of the present. That's what's cool. And has nothing to do with the technical stuff. But it does. Well, it does at the same time. It does. You got to have both. But that taut bow, I think, is a state of mind that camera people can be in, and that's important. Framing. We got to frame. We have to put borders on things, because it's the nature of our medium. But to extend what I was talking about earlier about lens choices and how that's shaping the world you're in, again, no right answer, but thinking about the ways that the long lens pushes us away from the scenario, the effects of it, and the way that the wide lens brings us into the scenario. And classic street photography stuff, back to the early days in Paris, when you shoot on a 35, those guys, a lot of them were a 50, which isn't really considered wide at all these days, but Salgado on a 35, you think about, it's a side note, but I watched Salesman again recently, and I've been looking at a lot of street photography again recently, and it's, you look at that stuff and you think, like, does that world exist anymore? To engage people, like you look at a Cartier-Bresson picture and you're like, can I still get that? Can I still go out and get those pictures, those moments with people? I think so. I have my doubts, but I think that world still does exist, because people are so on to the cameras, you show up with that camera, especially, and it is a different world, but our personality, who we are with that camera, is going to get us back to those moments. Not the camera itself, but who we are and how we engage those people we find on the street. But this is something I think about a lot, and I think it's important. And again, no right answers. 2/3 inch camera, broadcast camera with a long zoom. I don't see any of those as right. They're just different choices about how to engage things, And I like approaching the tools like that. Shooting on a long lens, it's not right or wrong. It's just different. But thinking about how it engages us to people is interesting. What happens if I go disturb that woman in the rice field and ask for her picture? Well, is it going to be different? Yeah, maybe. Do I stay far out, get her on the 200 millimeter with the sun coming up through the mist and stuff like that? Or do I go up and bring the translator and say, can you ask this woman if she minds if I film while she picks rice? And I put the 21-25, or, 35 on, and I'm right there with her, right in the rice, right at dawn. Is one better than the other? No, really. Oh, really?
Yeah, sorry.
Am I too?
It's the battery.
It's because I love myself, isn't it? I do this all day. And I don't know. It's supposed to be a sound. No, I'm not supposed to be a sound professional, but yeah. And getting kind of mysterious and weird about what you frame in and what you frame out. I mean, you can kind of get theoretical and philosophical about that. You know, what you're including and what you're not including every moment of that story. That's heavy, man. It's kind of my creativity engine. Chaos and entropy always happening on my show. Always there. Things are always totally falling apart. Well, not totally, but things are always falling apart. It's just the way things work. Whether you're on set, whether you're doing a travel show like mine, I mean, just things happen all the time. And the way, the unexpected, it's always there. It's always going to be there. All we can control is our reaction to the unexpected and the options we have. And interestingly, like on the Copenhagen show, we limited our options, and that led to some very interesting creative solutions. So having all the options in the world might not always be the greatest thing. Sometimes limiting your options may make more creative solutions. That's something we're playing with too. We can go more into that if you have questions. But Copenhagen, I'll talk about that if you guys want to know more, but it's an interesting show. Options in terms of this camera. Although I should say, you know, back to that other slide, like hardship for us is like something we deal with our show is hard. It's very hard to make. It's a lot of fun, and we do a lot of great things, but that hardship is what is leading to all these creative solutions. So I kind of believe in it. It sucks. I hate that, but it's true. Okay, so what are my options? What are my options in documentary? What options do I need in my unpredictable, wacky, crazy world to help me out in my doc scenarios? Not that you can't apply all this to feature stuff, because you can. But a high ISO, that like totally changed everything. Being able to shoot at 3200, which we do all the time, and 6400 ISO, that changed everything. Being able to walk in these dark scenarios with little, if I didn't have time to light, and still being able to get something, or walking around on some city street with just available light and seeing cities at night that I'd never seen before on camera. I mean, that's cool. That is different, you know? That 32, 64 high ISO stuff, that's cool. Really saves your ass. S-Log and high dynamic range, people don't usually think of that for documentary, but that's a huge asset. I think more than feature world, because in features you can always, you've got people to help you control things. In documentary you don't always have that. Therefore this is when you really need S-Log, you know? It's when it's gonna help you the most. The camera's rugged. I'm not even gonna say anything because I need some wood to knock on. It's been rugged. Yeah, we're definitely throw salt over the shoulder kind of people. There's some wood. Yeah, S/S cards. Man, we've beat on those cameras, and I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah, they're rugged. They're totally rugged, and all the format options is another option that you want in your back pocket. Other options, which I think are really cool, that it kind of makes me sad to look at. I wish I had these 10 years ago, but Super 16 on this thing is going to be here very quickly, and that's going to be really cool. Being able to lens up with Super 16 zooms is going to be cool. If you have questions, I'll talk more about that. There's a B4 mount if people want to do that. You know, for wildlife or sports, I mean, that's amazing. You can put your old zoom lens on there. That's crazy. Super 35, like we've all been shooting. Still beautiful. You know, people didn't know if you could shoot docs in Super 35 at first. You know, somebody always has, but there was a lot of questions. It's totally possible. It's beautiful. And you can put 2x squeeze anamorphic lenses on that thing, which is crazy. So to be able to do all that stuff with one camera, which I will do all those on my show, is pretty awesome. It's really awesome. It's really crazy. Technical stuff. I don't know if you guys want to get into that or not, but this is S-Log. This is the way I'm shooting S-Log. Instrumentation is critical. Like Andy was kind of touching on this earlier. Can it be done? Yeah, I shoot it on the fly all the time. We don't have a lookup table yet. We are greatly anticipating that, being able to look and shoot in Rec 709 while we're shooting, but can you shoot without it? Yeah, I do. We do it all the time. Keeping in mind where your gray, that gray is 35 or 32, keeping that in mind and knowing that, and then using your tools, waveform, false color, or I like the zebra spot, which might be coming. I don't know. I think it's going to be, it's like your spot meter inside. So if you want to get more into that, I'll tell you how I use those tools. I don't know if you want to know about that. And also, if you're shooting S-Log, for that advantage, you are color correcting, which means you got to think to the color correct, which means being in touch with your colorist and your editor and your director and your producer and getting all on board about where that S-Log is going. It's becoming, as everybody knows, it's like it's becoming way more important to plan that stuff before, because if you don't have a plan and that S-Log comes up, there's so many different ways you can go with that in the color correct. I mean, depending on, we have a show where we can do really different stuff all the time. Maybe you're on a show where you're looking for consistency, but because there's so much room to push that stuff around, you gotta have a plan. Also, I'm getting into shooting S-Log when you need it, because it's a huge amount of data, and I can get more into that if you guys have more questions about using S-Log on the fly. So questions? Yes.
I watched the Copenhagen show. Can you talk about hurdle that you ran out against that you?
I'll just put that back. Yeah, Copenhagen show hurdles. Well, first hurdle was talk about two guys sitting at a table. Could have been, that can get boring real fast. So we were a little worried about that. It was about a meal. We've shot a lot of meals. We've shot a lot of kitchens. And we started trying to think about how to do that differently because we've done so much of it. And one thing that Tony said that had struck me was, I am so tired of the over-the-shoulder shot. He's like, I don't want to see that anymore. I'm so tired of it. Okay. He was really emotional about it. He was really mad. Over too dirty, dirty or clean over this, this thing. Looking right down which is a nice shot. Yeah, I like it. But he's like, we got it, enough of that. So, okay. So we were like, we started building these rules, and one rule was like, okay, no OTSs. There's not an OTS in that show. It's like, okay, can't do that. It's illegal. And I think the best, in terms of limiting creativity, starting to build rules is kind of a good way to like boxing yourself in like that, even though it sounds kind of counterintuitive, will actually lead to other solutions. So that was one. We also said we want to limit our lenses. And we really, the whole thing is shot on like 2 lenses. It's almost kind of one lens because there's probably a couple shots on a 50 millimeter, probably a couple. Might be a few 18s. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at it again, but it must be 95% of that show is 2 lenses, and then another percentage of macro. So you're looking at a 2-lens show. That's what happens in a 2-lens show. It was a 35 and a 25, and obviously being influenced from like Lubeski and Mount Tree of Life, watching that and thinking about that language and what was trying to be said there and how it was trying to be said. We also said easy rigs, which I think best use of an easy rig is getting a camera in a different position. It's not, sure, you can use it to take the weight off the camera all day. That's fine. It's not wrong. But I think it's really better served as you know, when you're shooting with this style camera, it's usually going to be here. And one reason to choose that camera is because if you're, you know, for me, choose a camera and a lens based on choose a camera body based on where the lens is going to be most of the time. So I shoot a lot of people like this and a lot of people like this. So given a camera like that, if I want to start putting the camera here or here or here or here or, you know, this thing, then an easy rig is perfect for that because, you know, this is gonna get old. And it actually encourages different operating, dutching and, you know, seeing the world in a different way because you're putting the camera in different places all of a sudden. So that's why we use the easy rig. Tried to always keep the shot moving and tried to get off the thirds, which is hard to do. I was kind of saying that earlier. It's hard to like do that, you know, like I read an article about Lubeski and Malik and him saying he had the support of the director. He could do it because he had the support of the director because the director had his back and was like, go for it. I'm with you. And our director, Tom Vitale, was totally like that too. He's like, go for it, guys. I'm with you. And if you can work on projects like that, you know, and have EPs and directors who support you and stuff like that, you can get amazing stuff done. But I do really credit them with like having our backs. So easy rig, limiting the lenses. And again, you know, meaning if I want a close up, if you're going to need the close up to cut, then yeah, you got to be in here with this beautiful woman. It's my wife. But you know, all of a sudden you're doing this and you're seeing so much of the world out there around you. It's different. It changes things, you know, rather than backing off and being in, you know, on your 85 or whatever. Right or wrong, no. Both are cool. But making those choices, we had to run around a lot more to get coverage because now if you're on one lens, you know, it's two-shot, single up, getting up from the table, right? You know. So, but it's cool. And all that, it put all that energy back in there. All that energy of being like, oh, shit. Oh, here we go. Oh. It got in there. And that's what brought life back into it. So it was good. I look forward to doing more of it.
Did that in turn also, that moving in and out affect the relationship between your subjects and the people in the environment and everything?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Yeah, it definitely changes. Well, that's a pretty mellow country where we weren't like packed environments. I feel like we did a lot of walking with like two guys, you know? But that kind of, I would think about that in an environment with a lot of people, then you would start changing stuff, you know? You'd start changing behavior. But we were able to get, like, what's cool about the kitchens in that show is, like, with those easy rigs, we were right in there, right in the action. And you really feel that, you know? You're like, that kitchen is just happening, and you're, like, right in there. That's cool, you know? And seeing the chefs change their behavior about, instead of, like, being like, give them space, they're, like, just jammed right in there, you know? So, yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Yes?
How many hours of footage do you shoot to make up one episode?
It changes a lot. It could be 40 to 90 or 100. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it averages, like, I don't know, 60? I'm probably wrong, but I feel like something like that. Yeah, you know, once you get those high ratios, I hate doing high ratio shows, you know. It's just so much more for everybody to deal with, and yeah, low shooting ratios are good. Good for everybody. If you can do it, yeah. Yes?
2 questions.
Yes?
One ties to that. I wonder if you want to talk about the Congo show.
I didn't shoot it. Yeah.
It felt like it was a preview of a much longer series.
Yeah, Tony's always wanted to do that show. Always wanted to do that show. We were prepping the Spain show and getting married. Yeah. But yeah, that was Mo Fallon. He's one of our DPs. Great guy. Very well shot show. Canon 5D and the PMW 200, which replaced the EX1. Yeah, good little camera, rugged.
And then the other question, completely unrelated.
Yes.
I feel like sometimes you get the B colorist.
Really?
Yeah, some of the shows are so beautiful, but every once in a while you'll see one episode where you're like, I could do
Color-wise?
that. Yeah.
Color-wise? Can you think of two to compare?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't give you specific.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer
I think
that
The
one.
Getaway would be a better example, where like certain episodes of The Getaway look like they were done by the A crew, and certain episodes of The Getaway are like, it doesn't look as good.
There could be different times. You know, Getaway was not a 2.5 day color show, I don't think. No, maybe it was. Schedules, you know. Basically, I have like one colorist, Steve Bagani, who I did a talk with and was at Sony. He's awesome, man. He's like, he's done every Emmy award-winning show. I mean, he's like, all of our Emmys, that's Steve, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we're doing a lot of power, you know, as many as we can, and we're really trying to, we have this ability to like make each show look different. Like, it's, so few people get that opportunity, and we're really trying to embrace it as much as we can. And it's like, it is a mental game. It's like, well, once you have that mandate, it's like, well, how different can you make it? You know, and not just to make it different, but, and one of those things is color. Like, you shoot these big files, you shoot S-Log, you shoot 10-bit. I mean, you can push that, you can do two completely different looks with that same footage, and we're trying as hard as we can to make those shows look different. Yeah. Yes.
Just curious, for each show, what's your sort of standard prep, scout, and production time schedule? How far ahead are you working at it, or who's doing that?
Standard production times. Well, it's different. It changes a lot. Every show is kind of different. Like, you know, Bourdain might be thinking about a show for year. He might just have something in his mind for years. We might have a fixer that we've talked to 1 year that's been kind of mulling over ideas for a whole year. It could be another situation where you're like, oh my God, they have to put that thing together in like 2 weeks, you know? So it does change, but I think like a month out maybe for those guys is safe, average, a good medium place.
You literally just get off the plane, pull the camera out, spin the camera out, and go start?
Kind of, yeah. We have pre-pro meetings. Entropy and chaos is always pushing upon us when we get there. Things always change. Always change when you get there. But we have pre-pro meetings, core concepts, looks, approaches, watch movies. Bourdain always has like movies to watch or songs to listen to or books to read. We do a fair bit of research, knowing that scout photos, we have fixers. They're called fixers in every country. We got a lot now. People we know. Sometimes they're new people, but generally they're people we worked with before. Reputable, that are out there on the ground, and you know, director here and producer here. There's a director-producer pair for every show. Start that research as early as they can. Get the fixer on board, hammering on the phone, back and forth.
So for one of your shows, could you average maybe from landing to leaving 5 days?
I feel like we've done a show in like 4 days or less, up to 12 days.
I'm thinking about the hours you say you're collecting for each show. 2 cameras.
We shoot a lot. We have long 2 cameras, yeah. That's why it can be up to like 90 hours, you know. Yeah, we shoot a lot, but we're shooting all that B-roll too, you know. It's not just you shoot the meal. You either get in the kitchen in real time, or you gotta get some kitchen stuff and then build out that area and build out that country. Yeah, so it adds up to a lot of footage. But yeah, generally land and start meet your ACs, build your cameras, and go on a scout or shoot something. If something, like inevitably one of our director, Tom Vitale, guy gets so lucky, like something's always happening as soon as we, like, oh, this is the Moon Festival. It only happens once a year or once every 10 years. And it's as soon as you guys landed off your 20-hour flight, it's happening. So let's go get it. You know, it's like,
How many camera? 2 or 3?
2, sometimes 3. Yep. 2, sometimes 3. We bring a lot of cameras with us, a lot of different kinds. But, yep.
Just, what is your opinion about using Cabrio 1990?
Yeah, we use it a lot. Yeah, we shoot a lot with that Cabrio. We shoot with it because nobody can. That's the range. I mean, 19 to 90 is the biggest. I wish it was a little wider, but it's the biggest range out there for that class of lens and for that weight. So zoom ratio to weight can't be beat. We've also I've shot on Panavision zooms. They're lightweights. We've shot on Ingenue Optimos and Rouges. You know, we've shot on them all. But the reason we go with that Fuji is you can't beat that range. Do we use a servo? No, we take them off. Shouldn't say rip them off. Right? Take them off. We back the screws out gently. Yeah, no servos. Yeah, we don't really. We're a kind of. I mean, I don't think anybody leaves the servos anymore. We like that manual touch, that human feel. We like that. Yeah, and plus, I mean, just being able to move that fast, you know, wham, 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 rack in, rack out, bam, bam, bam. You know, I feel like it's faster. But it's personal preference. But yeah, we shoot a lot on those. Yes?
Doing like documentary style, how do you acclimatize people to your camera? Because some places I've been, you can rip out like a huge rig and no one will blast, and other times it's like
it is, yeah, what you say. I mean, it's how do you acclimatize people to the camera? Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you're in their world. If they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. I mean, you're getting all my tips and tricks here. Like my thing is to acclimatize the environment to the camera, you know? I don't run into, everybody's different, but I don't like charge into a street and start grabbing, you know? I don't hide, make my presence known, might meet a few people, you know? I don't shoot people without their permission. I'm not talking legal lawyer, that stuff. Vast majority of the time will engage a person before they shoot them. Does it change the environment, like we were saying earlier? Yeah. Now, do they know they're being filmed? Yeah, but that's, you know, you got to make a choice. You're either going to go ask them or you're not. Those are 2 different routes. You're going to get 2 different effects. Just pick one. One's not right or wrong. But I like, you know, if I'm there with a camera, I like to be like, you know what? Do you mind if I film you rolling those cigarettes and pouring coffee on the street? Is that cool? Oh, yeah, he'd like to be filmed. Okay, great. You know, I'd rather face that than like, and there's 2 schools of thoughts on that, you know, oh, better to ask for forgiveness than, you know, beg forgiveness than ask permission. But I'd rather have that and then back off and, you know, people kind of get used to you, acclimatize, and then get the stuff rather than being like, what are you doing, you know? Because, you know, that spreads, you know, spreads in your environment, your little petri dish. You know, you start making people mad, and I don't know. I get the best out of people for me when I go ask. Yeah, Libya was, again, just like that, you know, acclimatize, don't go charging in with, you know. But, man, most of the time in most places in the world, people are like to have you around, you know. There's still places in the world where people are honored to be photographed, you know. They're like, okay, yes, that's great, photograph. Yes, you may. You know, they'll be like, no, you cannot. Okay, yes, you may. Yes. Or bring their children in, you know, like, no. Yes, okay. Or not me, them, you know. But yeah, better to ask for me. Yes.
2 questions. Number one, you bring up a good point. You have a lot of people in the background, and you are shooting a show for profit.
Yes.
Releases required, or what?
Ooh, that's a whole lawyer question, which releases bother me, man. It's hard. Releases are hard for me because I probably shouldn't even say that, but it's like I like a personal rapport. If I'm photographing you, we have a rapport. Even if I don't, I will make eye contact with you, and obviously I have a camera. I like that. For me, that's good. When when people have to go in with, papers and can you sign this? And yeah, I get it, but bugs me.
So nothing's come back or no issues?
No, I mean, yeah, they get releases, yeah. 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 There's rules on it. I'm not there, you know, like, is this person speaking? Are there, you know, there's, yeah. It's, that legal world, I get it, but man, it's a downer on my B-roll, man. And not because I'm like sneaking up on it, you know, not because I'm like, hey, you know, but because it's like once the contract writing comes out, I understand. But it's like that's when I like the personal rapport where it's like, good. We good? Cool. Thank you very much. You know, I like that. It goes back to like the street photography roots. It really does. It's like, you know, I wonder if those, you know, did Cartier-Bresson, was he asking people for permission for those photos? I wonder. Does anybody know that? Does anybody ever wondered that? What's that? Is it really First Amendment right? Okay, there we go. It was a different day and age. Yeah, that whole legal question wasn't out there, which is, you know, we were saying, does that world exist anymore? I hate to be cynical and say it doesn't. But it's, you know, like shooting B-roll in New York, it's tough. It's hard. I get why it's hard, but it's hard. Yes.
What's been your favorite moment you've captured?
Favorite moment? I can't answer that. That's like, what's your favorite meal? So many. Eating at my mother-in-law's is my favorite place to eat. Being with my wife in Spain is my favorite country. Shooting. It's a hard question what my favorite one is. We really have, like, the way I would answer that is to say every place has, and it sounds cliche and it sounds like, oh, yeah, it's such a cop-out, but it's true. Every place has something great about it. Some more than others, but you hang out, you find that moment. Southeast Asia, man, I can't even, I don't even dare say like Cambodia or Vietnam. Yeah, it's because it's true. It's like Maine or Texas or it could anywhere there's been, we'd have to sit down and have beers and I'd start telling you all kinds of stories, but every place has something really awesome about it. Spain is great. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
I know you're native, but can you talk about the audio?
Yeah, audio. Yeah. Really? God, I feel like I leave the mics exposed all the time. Can I talk about? Yeah, you did. Which scene? Yeah. We try. I mean, the thing is, like, we use a shotgun. So our audio situation is this. Bourdain has some kind of fear and loathing for sound person on set. I don't know why. Nobody really knows. It's probably not personal. It's just something my sister doesn't like bugs. She freaks out. It's like, it's his thing. He thinks that there's a sound person on set, there's going to be a boom, and it's going to be in the way all the time. So we do our own sound, lavs, electrosonics. I try to hide him. He doesn't like being loved, I can't mess around with it for long, or he's like, give me that thing. And then sometimes he'll put it on himself, and then, if it scratches, it's a double-edged sword, because you're not allowed to futz around with it, because I get it, he's like, what are you doing? I'm standing here, like, fix it, But if you don't do it right, and then it scratches during the scene, you got to stop the scene. That's like the worst thing you can do ever. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, we monitor on your audio. One track. No, God, I wish we had a sound person. I really do. But, we do the best we can. So to answer that hidden thing, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll try to hide it. We'll all try to, the other DPs on the show, and I will try to hide it. But if it's scratching, it's like, hey, man, we're not going to take the time to, it's like, fix it. Just put it out. That's the way it is, It's kind of like our warning protest sign. It's like, help, If you see a mic out, it's me saying, like, help. It's like, we need a sound person, help us. Yes, sir.
Okay, I've got a multi-part question.
Oh,
Let me see if I can roll this up into
Okay.
something digestible.
Okay.
So, forgive me, I'm not all that familiar with the history of the show, but
Yes.
I'd love to hear you talk about what format was being shot before the F5. And you mentioned that you go places with multiple formats, and so I'm curious about, you know, did this change to the F5 change the number of cameras you're taking in terms of like GoPros or 5Ds, and you know the evolution from maybe the smaller chips through the DSLR era, like you know some of the ways that might have changed things, and particularly crew size and roles and responsibilities, like because obviously with a camera like this, you know you may curious what you're doing for downloading, and then and again how that transition affected your work with a colorist, or you know, is there a new paradigm?
That's a big question.
So I know it's a lot, but I think a lot of us will hear it.
Yeah, I'll try to work backwards. Okay, big question. Evolution of the camera on the show and how we're working now, kind of currently with it. Well, okay, so I'll try to pack it all in there. We use ACs in country now. When we start shooting with the F3s, we would pick up 2 ACs in country. They don't pull focus, but they help us with a lot. Before that, we didn't have ACs. The show has seen a huge evolution of cameras. The EPs have always been really supportive of like this mantra of like embracing what's new, embracing technology, forging ahead, always looking ahead. I think we started on must have been the DVX back in the day. The camera that changed everything. Who had that camera? Come on. Yes, yes. So for many years it was a 1/3 inch, small, huge zoom range, running around, getting in the, which you can, you know, two of the guys who shoot the show with us, Mo Fallon and Todd Liebert, they love that. Mo's a huge fan of that. He loves that camera, loves that world. Just the flexibility of the thing, man. I mean, you can just cover. God, you can do anything with that. There was a lot of merits to that 1/3 inch. You know, just the zoom range on that thing it's amazing. So it started there, and the way that you're encouraged or discouraged to shoot with that camera, and how that influenced the show of being like, you just throw that thing around, and how dynamic it is, and I can do that, you know, all this crazy stuff. Put it out the window. No, I'm gonna bring it in here. I'll put it in the pot. You know, so it started there, and then it evolved through. Man, you probably sold us all the cameras, didn't you? The Z7, what was before the Z7? A PWN 2000? Z1U, Z7U, where you could remove the lens, EX1, EX3. Shot a lot on the EX3. I love that camera. We did a lot with that. 1/2 inch chip and big zoom range. And then moved from there to the F3s, and then to this guy. And all the lens, the complement, you know, all the lensing options and all that stuff. Now we have 2 sets of primes and 2 19 to 90 zooms. We always carry super speeds with us. That's to really, you know, take full advantage of that thing. 3200, put on a super speed. Holy God, you could shoot anything. You just shoot stuff you've never even seen before. You're getting into stuff where you're like, I can't see that with my eyes, you know? You turn the monitor and you're like, wow. Yes. Am I getting anywhere with this question?
That's okay. That's great. I mean, what's surprising for me here is that it went from, you know, 1/3 inch chip and jumped to the large sensor. And maybe that's the sign of times, but.
Well, I think it was about like always trying to be a cinematic show. And what does that, who knows, but that's such a loaded term. I don't even know what that means. But trying to be cinematic, to what extent do you need cinematic tools? I don't know. It could be a losing argument, but could be a winning argument. You know, being able to shoot PL, all that range of PL, primes and zooms, not just about shallow focus. You know, I don't think we're like totally about that. But being in the PL world and having that working mentality, you know, that's really, the show's beautiful, you know, on these cameras. Was it beautiful before? Yeah, sure. But to not embrace this, especially with the sensitivity that comes, it's not just the PL and being in Super 35, it's all those other things that came with those cameras. It's like, man, it's just light years ahead, Now I see the merits of those old cameras. And, like he was asking about the Congo show. I mean, that was, what's the 200 half inch or third inch? Half inch? Half inch camera and 5D. We shot tons of stuff in the 70s too, but, they shot, 200 for that. So it still exists. It's still in the mix, or was last season. But yes.
Can you talk about the kitchen? This is not technical, sorry, but like LBE, I would assume I'd be super stressed out to be in there, and like how pristine it is, and like how meticulous the work is. Versus, I forgot the name of the restaurant in Copenhagen, but like the nighttime stuff where all the cooks are just kind of messing around. Like I feel like there'd be a lot more freedom, and like how symbiotic is your relationship with the chefs creatively, and how you shoot it, and how much do you stick to the plan of going in?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny when we engage a new kitchen because there's two kinds of kitchens, right? There's the one that's like, kind of know who we are and know our reputation. And there's the other one that's like, okay, don't get too close to the stove. It's very hot over here. And, we're going to be cooking here at the stove. And, I might turn around with a hot pot. And it's like, dude, we shot like 10,000 hours. We got it. Don't worry. So we're I don't even want to say, we're good, man. We are like, LBE kitchens like that, they're like shocked, They're like, man, you guys are so good. Yeah, because everybody's, places like that would be skeptical for sure. They're like, oh, we don't want the cameras in the way, I get it. You're a big, famous kitchen that's cranking out, 50. We shot like hundreds of steps for that LBE show. It was we shot hundreds of elements for that one meal. So I get when we walk into the kitchen, like, just out of the way. But people are across the board. They're always like, I can't believe you guys. You're never in the way. You just disappear. They're shocked. And it's because we've just seen it so many times, My grandfather was a chef, and I came up through like a chef cook family. So it's like in my blood, But we've just done it so many times that kitchen is kind of home. We whether it's a walk in a truck stop shack somewhere or LBE, it's like we get what cooks need, we get what they want, we get where they're going, and we're just very good at staying out of the way. And as soon as people start to see like, oh, okay, yeah, you guys get it. Yeah, always getting fed. No, they'll just like stick it right in your mouth, I'll interject this now. I think it's funny. It's like, you can definitely judge a culture by how uncomfortable they are by you not eating. There's cultures out there that are like, I can't. There's people that like, you'll be in their house and they just cannot stand watching you film and not eat. There's people who are just like, I can't. They're like, I can't do it. They're just like, make everybody stop. You're like, you have to sit down and eat and drink right now. And that's cool. That's pretty human to be like, I want you to eat too, It's pretty amazing. Yes. All handheld. Yeah, I'd say vast majority of all the shows ever, or must be 90% handheld. Yeah, do some stuff on the sticks for like long lenses stuff, or we'll use sticks for effect. We'll use sticks for like a stick shot. That's something that should be like that, but generally, yeah, we just move so fast handheld that, it's just so fast. Even shooting B-roll, I'll just walk around because it's just so fast. You never know what's going to happen, Yes, I'll get to you.
You said that Bourdain had an opinion about the over-the-shoulder shot.
Yeah, he's got a lot of opinions on it.
That's not a question. When you're shooting and everything's rolling and going, how often is he...
Oh, he'll never. No, once we're going, like that's the thing. Like once the train leaves the station, it's no stopping it. It's whatever happens. But yeah, in terms of like the guy's like an encyclopedia of film. It's really pretty shocking. He's got a really incredible memory of films and books, but he'll cite you very specific stuff. of like this scene, this movie. I find that very interesting. Why do you think about that? You know, so he's not saying like, you know, shoot this frame here. It's even the directors, you know, we're not really built like that. We're like, you know, the DPs really frame it, you know. Framing is, they trust us, you know, to look over our shoulder but their story, man. These guys are, you know, it's a good partnership. It's really a good partnership. But yeah. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the DDX, which was tape-based.
Yep.
Now, are you totally shooting the card?
Oh yeah, yes, good question. I'll come back to that. Yeah, thanks for.
Just out of curiosity, you're shooting one card, two card, backing up on location,
Yeah,
and then getting
yeah.
the material back into the States. So
Yeah, we're an unusual. Andy and I were talking about this earlier. We're unusual in that we bring all of our cards with us. That's a very big upfront investment, but it's probably the safest thing you can do because those S/S cards are really stable. I mean, those things are like, that's just about as stable as data gets right there. I mean, things are rock solid. So, you know, if you're going to take something off a S/S card, where are you going to put it that's more stable, you know? Backing it up, sure, that's a good thing. But our strategy is bring all our cards, no DIT, no AE in the field, you know, doing stuff. It's worked out for us to just hand them off, take a new set, go back in the field. And Post is very happy with that. They like that workflow. They would rather have it like that. They see us as not being able to make things better in the field, you know, on our side. So yeah, we bring a ton of cards and bring them all back. It's really safe, you know. And
no problems getting them into the States with all the checking and.
No, carry on. No, it's all good. Those things, just S/S cards are rugged. They are rugged. That's more rugged than a hard drive. Yeah. Yes.
How much time do you spend like anticipating moments, waiting for surprises?
Mm-hmm.
How much time do you allot yourself? Like Naked Guy
from
the other week.
Yeah, right.
Did you shoot that?
Naked.
That was a great moment, but
I
don't know
Naked
how
Guy.
long you budgeted time for that.
Oh, and
Yeah.
when they jumped off the.
He was framed.
Oh no, Alan shot that. I know. Yeah, that was so weird. He was just walking by, and the guy from the sauna just like, well, that's a pretty intense part of town there. It's really hippie counterculture zone. But yeah, this guy, you know, buddy Alan who shot the show with me, is walking by, and this dude just comes up to this open window, naked, and just hanging out. So Alan's like, okay. You know, they had the rapport, you know. The guy was like, Alan's like, all right, let's do this, you know. He didn't need to sign off. He had the, you know. But yeah, hard to answer. You know, are you going to shoot? There's never going to be a minute-long shot in the show. So I think you kind of work back from there, you know. Yeah, you know, 15 seconds going to be a lot of screen time these days with the speed of back to the rhythm and the edit, you know, the rhythm and the edit of things, knowing like, man, you wouldn't want to go out on a project that was all 1 minute shots and then come back with all the 15-second things. You know, that'd be bad. But yeah, you know, if you're delivering 1 minute shots for a 15-second show, then what happens is like there's too much footage to go through. You know, it works against you. I think when you shoot too much, it's like it's harder for people to find those little. You know, it takes more time for people in post to find those little moments. So not too little, but this is a happy middle ground. Yes. No, I don't. Yeah, producer takes notes. Yep, they might be along with us and taking, usually it's not shot per shot notes, I don't think, but it's like if the producer, because we'll just split up and go in different directions, the producer will always take notes like, oh yes, he was filming a man riding a cow, and, you know, wouldn't be like, tight shot of cow, udder, and then he went up to the man's eyes, and then, but yeah, they do in the field. They try to keep a track of like already cataloging stuff for posts. Yeah. Yes. Sure. Yeah. Did you have a question? You're like, all right, let's go.
So I like this idea that you said that Bourdain has almost like a photographic memory of films and art and culture and all this stuff. Does that keep you a little nervous, or just keep you that much more on your game as looking at more stuff to come back and try to change up a scene or change the way it's shot, or are you just like, okay, that's cool, let me look that up, let me Google that?
Yo, no, yeah, we always look at it. Yeah. You wanna watch the references because he's got a good reason for it. I mean, it's not that the show's gonna look exactly like that movie, but yeah, always, because this, usually they're great movies or great books, so it's fun to watch or read them. It is, yeah. It's great, yeah. But he's got specific ideas, it's weird. Yes?
I got two questions. One is, it seems like the director, in a traditional sense, isn't really, I don't know, like on the set. I mean, how do you guys, it seems like Anthony or Tony and you kind of dictate what's going on the set.
No, well, I mean, there's always a director there. Really talented directors. These guys are awesome. It's very tricky. It's tough. It's very hard, and I think that's why we don't rotate crews much. It's been a core crew for many years, and it's because it's not easy to do what we're trying to do. So the directors for us, like Tom Vitale, who I've been working with for a long time, they have the big picture in mind. Tom's always got he's got the big picture. Yes, it's evolving and changing, but he's got the big picture in mind, and that's what we're communicating about. Scene to scene, at home, over beer, whispering in your ear, like this is going to be an important element. So it's not traditional directing in the sense of like, go to a close up, okay, let's do a 2-shot. It's more of guiding that ship down that narrow river. It's tough, man. Those guys have a hard job. They're really good. Yeah, they're really good.
And then secondly, I just saw the Sicily episode.
Yeah.
So you was a camera guy. You didn't just.
Did my assistant.
Oh, you did. I was thinking.
Ask him.
As a camera, because the guy is caught red-handed doing what he's doing, basically cheating that they're going fishing.
Right.
I think as a camera guy, you got some gold. Just curious to know what Tony.
Well, yeah, he'll situations like that, he'll just flip it back on you. He's not gonna lie about it. So you just got to go with stuff like that. He's all from the very beginning. From Chris and Lydia, the EPs, they literally created the show themselves. They went and shot. The people who created the show went out with Tony, Chris Collins and Lydia Tenalia. They went out with Tony by themselves for like a month and a half and made that show themselves on their wedding honeymoon. Yeah. So, and that's the EPs of today. So they know what the hell they're talking about because they literally made the show. It's a pretty amazing story on the DVX 100. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How do you organize the lighting? Are you choosing the position of the subject with the background, looking the natural lights?
Yeah.
Or you add some lighting to reinforce natural lighting? How do you organize
Great question. I love that question. How do we organize the lighting? It's an excellent question because it's number one tool, the first tool out is blocking. Blocking is our lighting. That's half the lighting. Find that place in the space with good backgrounds, with natural light, if you can use it. And if you're not using the natural light, how you can motivate off it. Because we're really about naturalism. And yeah, we do light sometimes, but our style is very much to kind of keep it plausible, keep it, not every show. Sometimes we'll keep it unusual, but generally, go in, block the space, because if you can do it with blocking, then you don't have to light, right? So that'll save you right away. If you can do it with increasing ISO and blocking, great. If you have time to enhance the beauty by putting up some lights and the option to do that, yeah, we'll do it. And what we do is, we try not to just have two people sitting across from each other all the time. It is pretty easy to cover that way, but we try to shake it up. So, your first choice you make is how many people? How are they going to be addressing each other? Are they going to be along at a bar? Are they going to be doing French overs? You're going to be looking over their two backs of their shoulders at the bar? Are you going to be at the corner of the bar? And we can kind of control all that. Tony hates blocking. Like with sound people, he just has this thing of like hates blocking. He gets blocking, but he doesn't like it. So he'll inevitably like do that thing all the time. So you'll have to, you'll see us like running around and try to get back into their faces. But yeah, block by lighting first, and then we do carry lights and modifiers. Like quick and easy one for us is strings of bulbs. I think we have, just like strings of Edison sockets. I think we have 24 Edison sockets in 2 maybe 20-foot lengths, and you can do anything with those, because everywhere in the world you can buy an Edison bulb. You can buy compact fluorescent or warm fluorescent or tungsten, screw those in. You have a pretty significant light source. So you can run those straight across the rafter. You could double them up. You could make them in a big pile for a single source. You could string them in a square and cover that with a 12 by silk. Often they'll kind of blend in with the environment. If you're outside at a patio at night, string those lights up. It looks pretty natural. Blends in with bar and restaurant lighting. You can jam them in a chimera pancake. You can wrap them with muslin. I mean, they're really, really versatile. I talked about System D in another talk, but you can kind of refer back to that of like, it's a light that you can adapt, We also carry light panels 1x1s. And we carry the LED, the Solas, the Fresnels, LED Fresnels. We carry, man, I want to know the name. I'm gonna look this up on my phone. I was on the set of a friend the other day, and the gaffer showed me these LEDs, and I'm so impressed that I'm gonna look in my phone and tell you what they are. What are they? Light ribbons. They're made here in LA. Anybody know those? Light gear, guys. Light gear. Those are awesome. They're fantastic. I want a whole truck full of those things. Yeah, light gear. They're awesome. That's where we'll be going next, I think. They're just like, it's like a piece of, it's what LEDs should be. They're like, it's a tiny piece of paper. It weighs nothing. You can stick it on a wall. You can put Velcro on it. You can whatever. And they have a lot of throw, too. So, making 4x4 units out of those things is pretty awesome. And 12 by nets, 12 by quarter silk, 12 by China silk, big pieces of muslin. You can do anything with that stuff. So,
working with 5D, are you staying on the 2000 ISO, or you choose regarding lighting conditions?
I haven't shot with I shot a little bit with a 5D Mark III for Spain, but I haven't shot with that in a while. And I think I don't know what they would have kept that on. I mean, generally we try to keep that thing like, we've kind of phased it out. But generally the lowest ISO we can. I know there used to be those certain ISOs that were better than others, 640, and we would use those on the 70. I think that was true. But yeah, I think the rule for the 5D would be to shoot it at the lowest ISO possible as you can.
Yes, sir.
Are you using the OLED viewfinder or the conventional?
Well, we've been using the TV Logic 5.6. Yeah, as our viewfinder. Yeah, I love that thing. This is now that they've put the waveform and that the false color is coming in here. Maybe I could talk about that a little bit. That's making that thing really viable, because if you're shooting S-Log on the fly, like running backwards, you need some exposure tools. You can't just eyeball that stuff. Well, I'm sure somebody can. I don't want to do it, because you gotta, yeah, sure, there's a big latitude in S-Log. There's 14 stops there, but that doesn't mean you don't still need to expose it properly. You can't bury stuff down. If you bury stuff down in the bottom of that waveform, it's still unrecoverable. It doesn't, just because it's S-Log doesn't mean if you push all that stuff below 10 IRE, it's going to come back. Well, it's not. That waveform will not lie to you. Meaning, if you put that, especially opaque up, and you're running backwards, it's a very quick way of just seeing like, am I clipping anything? Am I dumping anything in the shadows? Okay, no good. Whereas if you're using false color, which I love false color, because Andy and I were talking about this before, it's like no better way to judge exposure. Like false color. Oh, his face is 20 IRE and 40 IRE. It's like you're not reading the waveform anymore, you know. Waveform is best for me and Andy, I think too, is like it's a sure guide to where you are in that frame. Like it'll never lie to you. But you can't really run backwards with false color on, you know. You're not going to pull focus through false color. So, you know, if I have time to check something specific and I'm like riding the margins of where I'm pushing stuff down at the bottom of S-Log or where I'm putting stuff up high, false color. You know, I want to know exactly where things are in that curve. Whereas waveform, that's my safety run around thing where, oh my God, I just ran into an alleyway. Like, whoa, where is that? And okay, it's above 20. I know I can fix it. Okay, good. You know, yeah, those are really important tools, and those are coming into those, both that and Sony's viewfinder. So, yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, when you say TV logic, are you talking about the 5-inch?
Yeah, 5.6 inch. Yeah, we've been shooting on that for a long time. I love that. I love that camera, that monitor. It's great. Pull focus on primes on that thing. It's.
So you're not ever using the eyepiece.
I like the idea of the eyepiece because when you're out in the sun, shooting with the monitor is a pain in the ass. But man, it's hard to get away from that 5.6 when you've been used to it. I mean, it's big, it's sharp, it's we'll use both. But I would not want to go with one or the other. And if I could only do one, I shoot with my monitor, and hood it down, Todd's got his all hooded up, and it's a pain in the ass in the sun, but, all your data's there. It's so safe. It's like the whole options things, when things go crazy and entropy comes and all these unknown things happen, like those really are like that's your anchor, man. Like when things get weird, like you're flying in the rain on instruments, and you got to trust those instruments, which I didn't mention this before, but you got to test, like you got to test, got to test your workflow. You want to know, I'll keep this brief in case it's getting too nerdy, but what you want to know is when you go and you do your test, you want to know where you're pushing 10 down to. Is 10 going down to 0? Where you're pushing 20, is your 20 IRE stuff coming up to 30, which it generally is coming up? Is your 30 stuff going up to 40? Generally, yes. You want to look at those values, and as you're looking at S-Log, you want to know, you have to imagine where those things are going. What does that mean in a real-world example? Well, if I've got a character's deep shadow side at like 10 IRE, normally if I wasn't shooting S-Log, I'd be like, oh, well, it's down there, but, it's on the edge, Well, in S-Log, in order to get the blacks back, I'm going to be pushing that 10 down to 0. So, ooh, sexy. Hello. Yeah. And, that 20 may be coming down lower. It may be going back up a little bit. That middle gray 30, that's going up to safe 40. So that's the thing with S-Log is you've got to know that it's going to be color corrected, which of course we do, and you got to know where those values are going. So as you're running backwards or whatever with that, you're seeing like, oh, okay, shadow side's at 20, totally safe. Will it come up to 30? No problem. Don't take my word for it. Just go look at it. Where can I bring 20 to 30? How does it look? Did it get noisy? No, it looks fine. Okay, great. How did it look when I brought that middle gray back up to 40 where it usually ends up when, goes on the Rec 709 TV signal? Oh, it's great. So it's perfect. So it's finding your margins of like, oh, when I tried to bring that 10 back up to 20, that got a little noisy. Whatever it is, you got to know that. Because otherwise, if you're using these false color and waveform tools and you don't know where those values go, which they will have to go somewhere when you correct them, but if you don't know where they're going, there's no sense looking at the test, In 709, yes, but in S-Log, no. Did that kind of
answer more than a question? Test.
Testing is unsexy. It's not very fun. Nobody likes doing it, but man, you gotta do it. I was just talking to Andy about, because this guy's the master of this kind of stuff. One strategy that I want to do this year is like, if you're shooting S-Log, I'll keep this brief. I know it's intense for people. If you're shooting S-Log, XAVC, 10-bit, it's a lot. That is a lot more data. That's a lot more color. That's a lot more fine gradations between those grays. It's exponentially more. Okay, so shooting on S-Log, my strategy is going to be, is like, if I'm doing that, record to the XAVC, you know? Do it to 10-bit. You're trying to pack 14 stops of data into a very small space. If you can go to XAVC, it's only going to be better. Have I shot 8-bit? Yes, thousands of hours. Does it work? Yeah. It's on TV, but it's going to be better with 10-bit. So if you're shooting S-Log, try to shoot that XAVC, 10-bit. If you don't, this is the strange thing, if you don't need S-Log, meaning if I'm in a dark bar, I don't have some blown out highlight that I'm trying to save, or I'm in a car, day versus night. If I'm in a car in the day, whoa, S-Log has like changed the world, because now I've got person in shadow and the incredible background going by outside, and now I can kind of save that background in a way that I never could before. Well, if I'm driving around at night, perfect scenario, now I don't have this super bright Baja beach behind my character. Now it's all kind of within that 5-stop range of brightness. Well, I don't really need to be shooting 14 stops of S-Log. So the strategy, one recommended strategy would be for that to use these hyper gammas. Maybe don't shoot S-Log where you're jamming all this info into 8 bits if you don't need it. If you don't have this super big contrast scene, devote more of the data to fewer stops, and you'll actually have more to correct with at the end. So S-Log, more bits. If you don't need it, shoot on more bits if you can, but you know, devote it to less bits. You get more out of it. Okay, all right. My wife's like, stop, you're killing them. Any more questions? Okay. Yeah. I feel bad for those people outside. Back's been pretty good. The DP, Todd Lieber, has been on the show forever. He does yoga every day. So yoga, Pilates, I think, is a good solution for camera people. You know, it's good. Gotta have that back. But yeah, yoga, Pilates, man, it's good. Core. I will say that. Okay, here's my quick spiel on that. Posture, you got to keep the spine straight, you know? And the way you do that is by rocking the hips forward. This I told this to an operator, and it changed his life. So by straightening the back here, you do that by doing this Elvis Presley thing where you pull the front of your hips up as if you were like pulling your suspenders up, and then straightening, you know, making your hips perpendicular to the ground. And you can feel the change in your operating, because it's like, I get like instant relief. You straighten your back by rocking your hips. Instead of going like this, you do it by rocking your hips forward. You roll them. You can feel your back straightening out. It's like, that will keep your back healthy. And also by pulling your breastplate up like this. I'm glad you asked that, because posture's huge, man. It's like posture is a really big, I think, part of life and part of shooting, because if you want any longevity in shooting, you've got to have good posture. And that means like sitting at the table and walking around and doing all the other stuff. It's not just in your camera work. You got to improve that all the time. So you bring there's like a string attached to your head here. You bring that up, which raises your head up, straightens the spine, roll the hips forward, pull the breastplate up a little, your shoulders fall back, and that'll keep you shooting like for your whole life. It's better. And you know what? It kind of wakes you up and like broadens your awareness. It's true. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. You get a little hook here, shoulders, you know, because you do this like rolled. You get stressed out and you're operating. You do this thing. You're like, fuck it, hour 12. You know, take a moment to do that. Oh, it's better. Roll the hips forward. Try it when your back hurts. Do that hip roll thing and see if it feels better, because it could be your spine pinching your nerves. And Pilates.
Let's get real quick. You probably mentioned this. I know you mentioned the Copenhagen.
Hey, I can talk all day. It's all these guys, man. You know.
The Copenhagen. You mentioned you use just 2 primes.
Yeah.
Is that? I mean,
for most of it.
Okay.
Vast, like 95%. Yeah.
And is there like a go-to lens you have? Like, I mean, you guys are always running guns.
Well, our 19 to 90 Fujinon zoom stays on a lot, but we also carry 2 sets of Super Seed primes. But go-to, I don't know. These days, I mean, I want like a 21. We don't have that, but that's what I want. But yeah, I like the wider end these days, but it's always different. We have an 85 that's beautiful. That 85 Super Speed Zeiss Mark II is pretty gorgeous. But yeah, it always changes. I'll say one thing and I'll change my mind next week. You'll be like, what the fuck you just said? Yes.
You may have mentioned this also, but the audio, are you going directly in the camera or are you
Yeah, electrosonics.
But is it going straight to the camera or
Yep.
down the system?
No.
We carry like a 10 track, but you know, no producers want to use that thing without sound, man. It's complicated, you know. That's why you have sound people. It's like 10 track recorder is not easy. But we carry one with 4 extra sets of electrosonics that go to it. It's a great way to do it, but you know, there's a reason there's sound people. It's like it's a lot to. Yep, electro receivers right on the back by the battery, goes right in the camera, adjust the levels, run a shotgun for ambient. That's how we rock. Now, if we have more people, they'll run those to another, like a spare camera, like a 200 or something. They'll put 2 soundtracks, 2 packs on that, and a producer or director will monitor that.
So if we found like the new firmware has been helpful.
Firmware. That's what's awesome about this is it's just going to keep getting better. They've designed this camera to be upgradable. That's the whole idea, you know, is to keep getting better. And if you look at they've charted out for how far ahead? Yeah, I mean you can go online and see the lists of upgrades, but it's, you know, they will continue. They'll continue fixing if there's problems, they'll fix it. If they'll keep making it better. That's what's cool. You know, it's kind of that whole idea of improving a camera throughout time and not just having this camera that, well, you bought it and now it's, locked in time. It's like, no, it's disappearing. These things engineers are in there like working on stuff to make it better. You know, they really are. So it's cool. It's a different design philosophy. I like it. Well, you know what we could. Does anybody need to run? Because I feel like I can answer more questions. Or everybody cool? Okay. If somebody's got to go, I don't.
We can hang out for another. How about we take like 3 or 4 more questions and then we'll break.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I can go till 9 if people want to. I'm happy. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I just don't want to hold people up. So
yeah, let's do 3 or 4 more.
If you had LEDs on your monitor, would feel a lot happier.
Yeah. It's Sony. Sony knows. They know every operator's been like, we did a Rec 709. Yep, totally. Well, I think, actually, this is the way I operate with when I have LUTs, is I don't always stay in my Rec 709. I want to check back and forth, which I do. Andy and I were talking about this earlier. It's like, yeah, you can live in 709 for most of the time if you have that option, but you always want to be able to very quickly, like, so what's happening in the log? And you want to be able to see that waveform or false color change too. You know, you want to be like, what's happening in the log? Okay, everything is also safe on the waveform there. Great. Back to 709, where I can kind of expose my eye again. But even in the 709, I still want to keep I'm still checking that stuff, because it's those fine, like, it's easy, it's easy to lose in a monitor the difference between like 10 and 20 and 20 and 30 and 10 and 15. Stuff starts to get critical down there where, you're pushing into the noise zone, and that's where if you got critical stuff, maybe you can't get it back. But yeah, I mean, I always fly with my instruments on, man. I mean, I love being able to look at the picture without that stuff on. I feel like that's back to the film camera days of just like, you're just looking at the moment, I like that, and I miss that. I think you get that back a little bit with a viewfinder, But yeah, always have instruments. But yeah, 709's coming. It's coming. Where'd Reggie? Yeah, it's December. Yeah, but yeah, it'll be better. Yeah, colorist. Yeah, we talk with him. Try to talk with him before, catch up with him after the online. He's Steve Begani is awesome. He's actually we just did a talk with him, but yeah, he's we do have input. It's the more pictures, the better. I like the new evolving relationship between DP and colorist because it's like it is such a collaboration, man. You gotta take care of each other, and it's so interpersonal, and there's so many options now for them that you just gotta have a good relationship, but yeah, we talk a lot. Steve's awesome, but also like he's he's a colorist. The guy's an amazing colorist. Like he's great at his job, so you both got to support your best skills. It's just talk, it's conversation, but using pictures is best, because often we'll be like, oh, you seen that? Yeah, you've seen that movie? Okay, great. Remember that? It gets you started like that. But pictures, yeah, okay. Yeah, you can do the whole Resolve workflow now so easily. It's Andy and I were talking about that too. Put the Resolve on your laptop. That's what that's my thing. You can talk to your colorist that way. It's so easy. Email back and forth, and better than ever. Yes. Sorry. We'll come back to you.
I had a question. How often do you see yourself shooting at ASA 2000 or around, and how comfortable are you in terms of the noise?
I have shot, especially on the F3, I shot so much at 3200. A lot that is on broadcast television. A lot. Same with the F5. 3200, I'm like, no problem. I don't get worried about it. I shoot at 32. We've even shot 6400 stuff on the F5. Yeah. And I feel like I can kind of justify that in my genre. I can justify noise more than probably a lot of other shows where people are like, oh my God, it's, but for me, it looks like that stuff looks like what 6 dB used to be on the EX3, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, it's a little unacceptable, no, but yeah, it's a little noisy. That's like 3200 and 6400 now. I think it's acceptable, and I think it's about your genre, what people are comfortable with, show them the test and be like, is this cool? Can we put this on TV? And it's really dependent on the project. But for us, we do it all the time. Yeah. That will be changed by profiles. Andy and I were always also talking about this year building profiles. This is important. Profiles specific to 3200 and 6400. You can go in, build a profile, put up 3200. You're going to be using that at night. You could use it in the day. It'd be weird. It might be interesting. But put it up, build a profile for 3200. Put 64 up, build a profile. Make 64 look the best you can. Build a whole profile around it. That's what we're going to do. So, yes, sir.
I read somewhere that you're using also the FS700 on the show.
Yeah. You also asked about all the cameras. We've had like 12, 16 cameras on a show before. I mean, we've brought like everything from hardware store, like Chinatown camera, micro things, cheapy dollar cameras to, we'll bring everything. So right now we carry F700s, one for high speed work, pretty much just for high speed work at this point. And 2 backup PM. We still carry those as backups, the 200s, in case we need something with those. Carry DSLR for time lapse or crash cam. Carry a lot of GoPros, GoPro Hero 3s. Use those a lot for stuff. Like a little fidgety, but great for what they do.
Credits once it said, it goes by so fast. Yeah. It said Anthony Bourdain camera.
Did it? Oh yeah, that was in Libya because he was he was shooting with his iPhone. Yeah. Which I like. We encourage him to do it. It's cool. What's cooler than him shooting his own stuff? I'm gonna go get a beer. But yeah, I like that. I think it's. I think He's always like, let's shoot a whole show on the iPhone. I'm like, oh man, come on, really? Like, talk about things sounding cool, but. But yeah, we're just talking about this for an upcoming episode. Just mixed media, it's cool. iPhone, GoPro, throw it all in there. Just pile it all on. I feel like
the F700, they have the similar chip, right? To this,
yes. Yep. Yeah. what's different is the compression. You know, you're because we would record to the SD, yeah, the mini SD cards. So you know, you're talking about completely different compression than what's going on in like an F3, you know, or F5. So because we're shooting to those little cards, I mean, you could go out to a Key Pro Mini, you know, or the Q7. What's the Odyssey? Or you know, there's all kinds of stuff you can go out to now to get. You get like 4K up to what frame rate now on those things? Yeah, you can. Yeah, all kinds of options, but it's their cutability. If that's what the question is about their compression. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes you have to. Doesn't matter. Sometimes you have to. Yeah, because well, the thing about. Nah, I mean it does. I like to be sharp, but it's like, often it's somebody's. It's a big day for somebody. You know, often it's like. The crew, you know, it's our big day, and it's a celebration, and it's, you know, it's important for people. You know, we've been on the show. You know, it's, yeah, you want to, you know, and that goes very much with our ethos of like. You know, and that comes straight from Bourdain. It's like you're in their house. This is their house. We do what they do. You be a good, you know. We're like pro guests. I mean, we are humbled by people often. And yeah, if somebody's like, which they always do, you know, here's a shot. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, we can't do it. You know, I'm working. It's like, nah. That's not the ethos of our show. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I have learned to run backwards after a couple. That's for sure. Yeah. Yes. Sennheiser M20. Does that make sense? Am I just pulling that out of midair? Yeah. Yeah, it's the elongated back Sennheiser. That was a shorter back one. M20. I feel like it's M20. You sold them to us. Come on. Yeah, they've been. I mean, those things are indestructible. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Hey, Andy. Yeah, that's what it is. God, thank God you're here, man. Bailing me out. Yeah, bailing me out all night. Yeah.
So I had a question. I've recently worked with the FS700 a couple of times, and with higher frame rates, we see a bit of some problems, mostly aliasing.
Yeah.
Do you have any similar issues with the F55?
So they have a new filter.
Yeah. The low pass filter, throw that thing on there. I mean, yeah, that's part of, you know, not having a global shutter and, you know, but that low pass filter that he's talking about will definitely help that. For the F700, I don't know if, yeah. It's what you're shooting, you know. It's the pattern, you know. It's depends on those patterns that you're trying to capture. Easy solution and hard solution. Don't shoot those tight patterns, you know. It's like, well, sometimes you can't avoid it, you know. But yeah, that's part of the, and you know, it's baked into the camera. You can't get around that if you shoot those patterns. It's part of the technology.
Is there any fix for it on the F55?
Yeah, a low. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting idea actually. It's a behind the lens filter, low pass filter. I think it's a great solution. There's also 55 with a global shutter. You know, you won't have that problem. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Decide to go with the 5 versus the 55? Was it more the speed? You have more.
No, well, yeah, that's handy. Plus its price point, you know. Plus, we're a 1080 show still, you know, at this point. So I think those factors combined. Yeah. What led us to that? Somebody's got a question. I can feel it. My intuition is telling me. All right. Yes, we do custom rigs. We've built our own custom machine everything. Lightest weight rig in the world. Nobody can beat it. It's amazing. It's all aircraft aluminum, weighs ounces. Vocus pistol grips now. We've used Aton for many years. Wooden grips connected to VCT 14 plate, which has been around forever for a reason, which is it puts the center of the camera at the center of your shoulder, balances the camera. It's the whole idea around the VC, that, you know, quick release plate for a ENG camera. It's the best thing. So built it around that. Yep. Yes. I can take questions afterwards too, and if
you want to wrap it up? Wrap it up.
Yeah, it's all about you guys, man. It's all about the people.
Good questions. So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, if somebody got to leave, go ahead. I'm not offended. But question. Go ahead, young man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good question. Red Epic versus a Sony 55. It's a shootout. And they're just they're totally different worlds. They're just different animals, you know. It's a different. Not only yes, can an Epic be built out to be a big shoulder camera? Yeah, but it's, you know, the Epic form factor. Just beginning with the form factor is quite different, you know, and maybe cool in a way. I do support multiple form factors on cameras, you know. There's times to be up here and there's times to be like this, and that's cool. You can do things like with the DVX 100 and cameras like this that you can't do with that, and that's cool. Both should exist. So that's one. Form factor is one, but also just post-process and color work, and they're just very different cameras, you know. They're different workflows. I've shot on both. Both have a place in the world, you know. It's such a I think it's such a personal taste question about how are you processing that footage? Are you doing it yourself? Are you involved with a production house that's ready for that is working with that already? How do you like to operate? Can you build those cameras out to a way that you like operating with them, that they're comfortable for you in what you're doing every day? Meaning, what am I shooting? What am I covering? How am I covering it? Am I just putting it on a tripod all day? Am I running around with it? If I'm running around with it, how do I want to run around with it? Like this, you know? So there's processing, post-workflow, there's operational, and then there's just like personal taste, you know? I mean, God, you can go online and read for years about what people say the differences are, you know? Color work is becoming where, can you make two things look exactly like each other? Yeah, probably now. Close. So I think it's a bigger picture question. You got to like back it up and do bigger picture questions, you know? That kind of answers. I think I snuck around that. Yeah.
This is just something that I'm curious with. So because you're so involved with all the technology and all this stuff, and maybe you're in your home life, I don't know if you have a kid or anything.
Sometimes, but not too much.
Thank you. Is it harder to get away?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you, guys. Is it harder to get away from, like you're talking about, being in the moment, or are you always like, hey, honey, let's reframe this, or let's videotape every single thing of this, or you get off work, or you just like,
oh yeah, I don't have.
I don't want to film anything. I want to take a picture.
Good question.
Just go in your room.
It's a good question. Do I film much?
Thanks for doing it. Yeah, thank you much.
Yeah, it does. You know, it's hard to look at a frame and not be working. You know, my eyes are working. If I'm looking at a frame, I'm working. Honey, you can take a picture of this. It's like, yeah, maybe you can. Well, you know, it's just the nature of things. But on the other hand, like I really miss like going out with a camera and shooting on the street. You know, there's no better challenge for like who you are as a human being. Go like shoot on the street, you know? It's hard. It's not easy. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to shoot B-roll. I'm kind of a shy person. Like, it's hard. But that's a great challenge, you know? Especially shooting wide. Like, you got to go interact with people. You got to go human to human, go talk. Because you can't be up in somebody's space like Solgado or even the 50. I mean, you can't be that close to people without forcing an interaction. But I kind of believe in that, like stealing a soul, There's some truth in that, There's like, you are taking somebody's image. And somebody was saying earlier, like, you're giving that, you're saying that, like, somebody's making a profit off it. But even, other than that, maybe on the, weird side, you are kind of asking a lot of someone. So I think it's important to have that. So to come back around to your question, I miss, like, taking a camera and going out on the street and just shooting stuff. Yeah, I try to do that sometimes, but, if I'm working a lot, it's like, get me away from the camera. Just want to go sit on my boat. Yes. Yeah, where's all your questions, Bryce? Give me. Thank you, guys. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. It's not necessarily really related to production, but it's really important for you to have on location. Good question. Hammock? I bring a hammock. Yeah, someone told me a bottle of water was the most important. Well, yeah, you always got to carry that. Yeah, that can get dangerous. You don't have that. Yeah, I have like a hammock I brought from like a Thai truck driver. They like string them under their trucks. I don't know you guys ever seen those. So like, they do them in Latin America too. They'll be like a big, like 18-wheel. Oh, no, they're like those big trucks they have. I don't know what they're like this big, but they take a siesta or whatever, even sleep all night, and like they string these really flimsy hammocks in the shade under the truck. Like you can just snap them on anywhere under the chassis. So I had one of those for years, man. I just, if you have a second, we do try to we'll try to schedule around a siesta, like if we're in that super hot country. Another thing we do is like behave like the locals, if nobody's out at noontime, like there's a reason, like believe it, like don't go out if nobody's out at noontime, don't go out at noontime. One, there's not going to be anybody in the streets to shoot, but they're also like, they know that it's like deadly hot, so, if we have downtime, yeah, man, slap up the hammock. Man, that's nice. Love that thing. Love that thing. Yes. Yeah, how do I stay healthy? Yeah, it's, we eat pretty good. We're not eating like junk all the time. We're pretty good about that. Like, we don't snack. We eat. They're late, but we, lunch and dinner. And, we're usually at great places to eat. Like, we eat 95% of what you see on the show. No, hey, I'll tell you, again, we're the only places I've ever gotten, I got like cholera from a hotel. The only places I've only been sick is hotels. I kid you not, hotels. That's it. And Bourdain will tell you, like, don't eat in a hotel. And he's right. All that street food I've ever eaten over years and years and years, never. God, I hate even saying that. Salt. It's like, no, that's the, why? And there's a good reason for it because, and he'll tell you this, it's like those people are independent businesses. Those are small businesses that need to stay in business. They sell to the same people every day. They can't make people sick. They'll go out of business. Like, they know all their customers. They don't know me. I just showed up. Everybody else is eating there. They know, They're like, they're all the locals. So that's a huge factor. They need to take care of their clientele because they see them every day. And the other one is like, they don't have any refrigeration. There's no it's not a refrigerator out there on the street. So they sell out of their product. Somebody goes and gets it in the morning and they sell out of it. So nothing sits around all night. Like, you don't have the pressure of a hotel of like, yeah, we haven't sold that chicken curry for 3 weeks, but it doesn't look moldy. They don't have that like pressure. And also so much of that food is also designed to be not make you sick, meaning it's like so much of it is boiled in a super hot soup. So much of it is like mega deep fried where nothing can survive. I mean, street food, like a lot of that food is ancient. A lot of that food is like, could be thousands of years old. You know what I mean? Like, there's reasons that people are doing it that way. Nobody wants to get sick, So, yeah, that stuff. Yeah, thanks a lot. Nobody wants to get sick. So It's freaking hotels, man. And you can see why, because they have they have to have that big menu on hand all the time, and it sits in the fridge, and then you're the dumbass that orders like the Caesar salad, and they're like, okay, I think we can make this pass. You know what I mean? Or airport, some airports, oof, that's what'll get you. But street food, it's good. Questions? Good night. Thank you. Anamorphic. Yeah. 2x anamorphic. We matted before, which I don't see the point in it. I understand shooting spherical. I get it. I know why you do it. A lot of advantages to it. But for my world, just putting a 240 mat on it's not buying me anything. Whereas if I can go out and get twice the focal length width that I normally can, that's different, So I'm not really interested in just seeing the world like that. I'm interested in shooting more of the world. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. If they'll let me. We're going to test it, so.
This about the anamorphic. I know Andy mentioned that it's going to be supported.
It's already
It's already there.
Ready to go, man.
You can turn it on in the viewfinder and off you go.
F55,
So
F5.
is it a 16x9 sensor that's pillar? How do they do 2x in?
It's a 4K sensor that's
Yeah, so 17x9 sensor. So you have, you don't have the 4x3, you don't have the height that you have on most, but you have a little bit wider aspects. So you can do 1.3x anamorphics really well, and the 2x you're losing some data.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it supports it. That's really cool.
Yeah, but it supports the option, and it can de-squeeze in the viewfinder and on the output. That's awesome.
But you don't have to shoot with hawks.
Right. Yeah.
You can shoot.
That's right. So 2x.
2x. Yep. Anybody else? You guys are here. You guys want to hear the answers? Come on, throw it out there. Yes.
Earlier you were talking about when you're shooting S-Log, you need to have some sort of plan for everything handling that footage. Have you devised the plans, and you've probably been shooting that way for?
Yeah, we've shot a ton of it. Yeah, just testing beforehand so that we know where everything's going, where it gets pushed around to, if that makes sense. Definitely conversation with the colorist, seeing it, being in the suite, seeing it graded, seeing where it can go, and knowing the numbers. It's not just seeing it get pushed around. It's also knowing 20 goes there, 10 goes there. But yeah, definitely. If you're gonna shoot S-Log, you got to do that. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's basically we know we're not applying LUTs in post. Because everything changes so often, show to show, that the looks can change. Steve doesn't put a LUT on and he doesn't put a LUT over the whole thing and then start grading from there. He grades every shot from the S-Log. So the aim would be to get that footage. Yeah, we would be talking about the look of the show hopefully long before the show goes out, about whether that's going to be whatever movie reference. But yeah, it's all happened before. Pictorial evidence, you can grade a shot, put it in Resolve, take it with you as a reference to remember, to look at in the field. You can grade a little thing in the field. We're not colorists. He's the expert, but we can carry evidence along to refer back to, Yeah, I keep bringing it back to pictures. You want to talk about he can send me JPEGs, from his suite. He'll send a JPEG out to us. This is what's up, This is where. What do you think? We can comment on that. But yeah, does that answer your question? Kind of. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, I gotta get. Yeah.
So you were saying that you hire your ACs in country. How big does your crew end up being though?
Change. Yeah, it can be
How much of your crew ends up being U.S. based versus having contacts and hiring?
Right. Crew size. Let's see. We leave with 2 DPs, director, a producer, and Bourdain. So 5. on the plane, and then pick up a fixer in country. Sometimes the fixers have assistants. Pick up, say, 2 drivers or 3 drivers. Pick up 2 ACs. I think we're up to 12. They do location scouting, but they're an in-country producer. Yeah, they may not be from a film production background. Some of our fixers could be like writers, but usually they're film production people, because they, better if they are. But they could just be like great researchers, with great taste and great ability to go out there and take great pictures and talk to people. And yeah. Yeah, well, there would be kind of the behind-the-scenes person, like a fixer, but often we might be brought to a place by somebody who's a guest on the show, right? It could be like, hey, we're hanging out with so-and-so. Hey, well, so-and-so knows this great place. Well, yeah, go there. Yeah. But, yeah, we could, and, if we had, it could be 12 to, if we pick up security, it could be a couple more, 15. Usually it's quite small, though. It's usually quite small. 3 vans, 2 vans, 1 van sometimes. Yes. No, just do I have a big contrast ratio between light and dark that I need to capture? Do I have deep shadow and bright whatever? That's when I need it. Do I have 12 stops from that bright area to that dark area that I need? Then I need the S-Log. If I only have, and you just look through the camera and you'll see that. You know what I mean? You don't even have. It's not like you get your meter out. Yeah, you just look at your scene, and if it's blown out in the exterior of the car, then it's like, well, try the S-Log, And I haven't used my meter in a while. Yeah, that's your meter, Especially with the. I think it's coming in this. It was always in the EX3. People are asking for it. But the zebra spot, it's literally a crosshatch spot meter in your camera. You remember that in the X3s? Yeah. Where you put that crosshatch, on something. I love that. It's a spot meter. I don't need to carry my spot meter if I have that. But all the exposure data that I need is in there. Only the meter, these days it'd be like if I scouted a place, didn't want to bring my camera in, and I wanted some incident readings of, well, what's happening in the bar. Okay, yeah. 3200, yeah, I can get this, But so much of my tools, or if I had to do a pre-light without a camera, but, we always have cameras, so when you have the camera with you, man, you got all the tools you need right there. I mean, it's a style thing. If I was lighting, even lighting, I just use the camera. Everything I need to know is there. Working with a gaffer, it's all there, My gaffers sometimes use their meters, but that's cool. He wants to rough stuff in. Yeah, it's cool. But at the end of the day, it's right there. Yes, sir.
But like, how often are you on the road? And when you're out shooting, you say it takes 4 or 5 days per shoot.
No, I shouldn't say that. Like the shortest shoot we've ever done has been like 4 days. Usually out for 10, 12. Yeah.
How? I mean, obviously you got to get the stuff to pose. Are you editing and coloring?
No. I just shoot it, man. God, no. Yeah.
So, I mean, you gone for how long?
Thank you.
Gone?
Thanks for coming by.
How are you on the road? Say.
Yeah, hundreds of days could be. Yeah. Yeah, it comes back. We come back, and then unless I'm going back to Spain. Yeah. It always go back. The editors have been on the show longer than I have. I mean, I don't know how many years I've been on, like 6 or 7. I don't know. Those editors have been on since the beginning. So New York. Yep, all of New York. I mean, there's guys from LA, but yeah, is there? Well, I think they're all New Yorkers and some Midwestern guys. Hunter. Yeah, New York. Yeah, offices in Manhattan, Midtown, and colorists, and yeah, all the online suites are there, and Avid, everything's on Avid, and correcting and Resolve. Yep, DaVinci. Right to left. Yeah, go ahead.
I like all the technical stuff too, but I'm more interested in maybe one of your favorite anecdotal stories. I mean, you were talking.
Oh, those are hard. It's hard to come up with those. Okay. I'm going to tell you a shitty story. Okay, here we go. I will. It's going to be good.
Like maybe getting back to when you were trying to get one of your unsafe or obscure coverage shots
Mhm.
didn't work or did work.
Mhm.
The satisfaction of that, or just the story of that.
I think it's all about Terrence Malick. Just watch those last couple movies, man. What are you talking about? You don't have to watch the whole thing. Did I just say that? Yeah. To the Wonder? Dude, I don't know. Now it's getting personal. Yeah, but that's all the framing stuff we're talking about, you know? It's the rangefinder stuff. I wish I could cite some still photographers that I'm trying to think of. Well, it's, you know, Cartier-Bresson was such a safe. Yeah, right? Yeah.
Said about him, you know, he did the peppers, did the park, did all these different objects, seashells. And someone said, this gets back to what you were talking about earlier about reality versus real reality.
Mhm.
They said about Weston's work is he takes what's seen and makes it known.
Mm.
And I think that's very similar to what
That's pretty
Malick
cool.
does.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes. I like that. See, that's a good moment right there. Don't know how I cover it.
But I'll watch it tonight.
But yeah, that's exactly it, you know? And like drawing the attention to things that you don't normally look at. Watching, like for us, it was like characters talking, but look at the hands. You know, your brain is like, doesn't want to do that, you know? You're like, don't, she's talking, look at her face, right? And it's like, nope. And that restraint of like, I'm going to watch the actions of the hands because maybe those are saying more than what our mouth is saying right now. It's that kind of, because maybe that's a new way of looking at things, or maybe there's more truth to that than watching what she's saying all the time.
I love that idea, but you don't maybe think that the old T-Mac got a little coverage on that?
No,
Just kidding. I think he got a little coverage in that face.
No, he doesn't need coverage. Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. But that's the risk, but also the payoff, exactly what you're saying. Like, what is the reward of the risk? Could be losing the audience, but the reward may be seeing things in a different way that is more meaningful to us. And that kind of stuff is like poorly done. It's like, oh, you're just cutting the guy's head off. That's weird. But well done, it's like, wow, I never looked at somebody like that, you know? I never looked at their feet like that, or I never, you know, looked up at a tree like, you know? I mean, it's like everything. There's kind of a mind-numbing way to do it, and then there's like, you're trying to honestly do something. Maybe it doesn't all work, but that's the idea of getting off the thirds, you know? Getting off the rule, getting off the golden, you know. Oh, there's a book for you. Bresson's, God, what is it called? Decisive Moment. Decisive Moment? Yes, Decisive Moment. It's all in there, man. That's like, he talks right about the golden mean, right? And he's right in that essay. He talks right about it. Like, is there reasons for golden mean and being on the thirds? And yes, yeah, there's good rational reasons for it. But once you like lock yourself into that all the time, maybe it's time to find something else, you know? I don't know. Yes?
I guess it kind of ties in with all this stuff. And I might have read a tweet you put up recently, but it's like, how do you kind of stop yourself from repeating your own kind of thing?
It's hard. You gotta, I mean, some people gotta take mushrooms, some people gotta, you know, it's hard because especially the better you get at something, you know. But, you know, for me, it's like you gotta I'm like a big cross-pollination person. Like I will go read something that has nothing to do with photography whatsoever. Like that Decisive Moment's pretty awesome. But, you know, could go read like Oliver Sacks' books on anthropology and the mind, or go read some quantum physics stuffs, or go read Eastern, you know, go read about Hinduism, or go read a book on physics, or, you know what I mean? Like, or biology. Like, man, that stuff's terrifying. Like cellular biology and parasites. Like, whew, it's scary. But, you know, like getting away from your genre, I think that's one way to get out of your head. Cross-pollinate. That's my thing. Or I write a lot. Like, if I see too much, then I got to go write. I got to go think in a different way, you know? If you're shooting so much, go try to write some haiku or go write some poetry, you know what I mean? Or at least go read some and trying to get into it. But I think, yeah, breaking out by reading something completely different, or picking up a camera and trying to that's hard, but like get back on the street, man, you know? Like
lucky in your field. We all three come from reality television. So shouldered up all day and shooting the same shot.
I will tell you something about that. I came up in reality. There's some really good DPs out there now that came up that way. Actually, I'm working on an essay about this because I think it's interesting about our generation. You can that will make you a really good. You can really get your chops there, man. And we shouldn't look at that. Our time. I don't know what show. Don't tell me what show you're on, but you know, there's some shows that are like. But you know what I mean? Like, there's some that it's really hard to shoot. I did some shows that were fucking terrible, you know? And it's mind-numbing, the stuff, you know? It's like, you don't want to watch that. Fuck, I can't believe I'm shooting that. Nobody, you know, it's like I'm making, like, food that's bad to eat, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, if you take that operating time seriously, damn, you come out of there a good operator. And the other thing it makes you think is all that time building scenes, just all that shot selection time, especially if you can start thinking differently. But all that time, all that trigger time, my friend Mo always says, is like, he came out of reality too. It's like, turn all that operating into like the gym, you know? It's like, make you better, and it will. Man, there's some, think about it in history. When did people have so much time behind that camera? You know? Yeah, reality TV gets a bad rap, but also, if you take it as like a training ground, man, to make you a better operator, no better way. You know, and like, look at it compared to like, you know, you come up operating in a fiction world, a whole different thing, right? But the ability for you to go out and make your own shots, there's something. I mean, I don't know if the director's calling shots to you all the time, but
that idea that you're working in this finite, you know, with all these constraints and all these people telling you what to do, and still being able to, you know, go to that part of your brain and come up with an image that tells that story. That, hey, maybe he's gonna yell at you, but maybe he's gonna, or maybe not. He's gonna say, oh, that's actually works.
All our guys came out of the reality, but we, you know, like we all did commercials and worked in film. We were all like film trained, either ACs or I was an electrician and a gaffer, and then shot reality, and then we all touched that reality world, you know, and all that dance that you learn, that's fucking valuable, man. And what it is like it becomes so second nature. And then you get out in the world where everything goes to shit, you know, and entropy happens. You've got all that. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like building those intuitive skills where you can just like walk into something and break it down. You're like, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, eventually do you need to like get away from what you've been trained to break that down as? Yeah, sure. But all that time, it's like learning to play the violin. All that time, learn how to break that down is valuable, you know. There's benefits to it, you know. It gets such a bad rap all the time. It's use that time, yeah. Totally, boom, 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 yeah. It's cool, man. It's gonna make you good, you know. Oh, you guys know. I think it's cool. All right, we gotta go. Let's get out of here. Jeez. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.